I didn't get the outside of the building last time. What do you reckon then? Gonna be playing? Get you on film then?
Why?
Well, I'm not going to get on film. So I'll be behind the camera most of the time, anyway.
I can film some stuff here.
Talking. Yeah, you can.
These guys, just in these uniforms, are troublemakers. Anyway, I guess they're the most modern incarnation of the U.S. national video game team, which actually was history's first professional video game team in America back in the early 80s. They had a lot of interesting training. We wrote a lot about official video game pinball book of world records. I don't know if you've read the story. Billy Mitchell was part of that team. And early on, Steve Sanders was part of that team. I guess I just thought that introduced myself. Sanders is a very well-known Donkey Kong contender. Tony Tippett, local. You're from
very local.
Just down the road.
Just down the road.
Down the road. So Tony's from Bristol, and he's one of the he's a member of this growing group of UK video gamers. So he's going to take records away from American video game players.
Hey.
And that's part of the reason why these other guys dressed in these jumpsuits, no, they're not jumpsuits, dressed in these uniforms, are here to do something about it, because there's this attempt that UK is about to become a video game superpower, especially in the classic gaming field. So we're here to try to develop a serious level of playing between North America, which means Canada, Canada, and the United States. Don't think about that. And Billy Mitchell, the world's most famous video game player, the only video game player I've ever seen, but when we go to like New York City or Times Square, people recognize him out of the crowd when they photograph him, which is a tremendous bit of jealousy for the rest of us, including average mortals.
Especially him. He just flat out tells the person he's jealous. He says, "Do you know me?" And they go, "No." He's wearing stripes, so they think he's a convict.
Doris Self is on the green post. We have 5 posts. I'll show each one of you. Okay? Doris Self in New Hampshire recently tried to reclaim her title as history's oldest video game champion. So Doris turns 80 in September. So 2 months. So we have this big proclamation we're going to sign here with the gold seal already on it, signature spaces, to crown her if she does her world record of score here.
Go on, Doris.
Yes. So Doris, we know way back, she was a member of the Electronic Circus, which was the biggest consumer video game thing that's ever done that during what now is called the Golden Age. It was a circus with 500 arcade games, and they were going to have them in semi-tractor trailer trucks going from city to city for 40 different cities were visited. And she was on the staff. She was a circus performer back in 1983 at the age of 58. And even then, she was history's oldest, at that time, history's oldest video game champion. But a couple of years ago, someone at the age of 72 got a high score on death charge. That person passed on. but Doris is now here to get a Cuba record back, so she at the age of 79 can become first place holder for the champion here. And it's a great story. It's amazing how many places in the worldwide internet or in the worldwide media are reporting on Doris Leader's hymn. All sorts of languages. They're taught in Czechoslovakian, Australian, even Hungarian, all sorts of languages. Indian, lots of stories in Indian. So Doris is a very good story, and we're really excited to have her part of it. The next person, Brian Koo. Oh, listen to this one. This is great. Brian was like an investment banker, controller in Manhattan, very important businessman. And he has retired from banking to become essentially like a professional video game player. So he now works at one of the most famous arcades in America, Fun Spot. I think it might be telling this to everybody. But Brian is a serious player, and he's like the #3 Donkey Kong player in the world, and like 844,000 points, which is simply incredible. Don LePage, he's also from New Hampshire. Don LePage is like the current marvel of the classic video game world, because he's the world champion on Centipede. You know how you play Centipede and how rough it is and how fast it gets? He can play Centipede like that, keep those 6 shooters going for 9 hours. 9 hours. 7,100,000. He stopped on purpose at 7,111,111 points. He's also the world record holder on Millipede. He's held Tron until just recently when another person, I think from Arizona, New Mexico,
I was from Florida.
Okay. He took his Tron title away, but he still was the dominant man world champion of Victor Zaxxon. He just broke the Frogger record that stood for 23 years, 589,000 points. And the Big Doug world record, he's the champion. And what else? The Super Cobra. So Don is a very rare breed of superstars who can handle lots of different kinds of genre and master them to the extent that what he does now today is better than anything that was done by those millions of people who were playing classic games back during what they call the Golden Age, when there were 80,000 Big Ducks distributed and they were being played by millions of people. All their efforts don't equal what Don has done all by himself now in this present era, so that's pretty amazing. Perry Rogers came. Perry is a member of the U.S. National Video Game Team way back in the early days. I met Perry over 20-some years ago. He was part of all our activities, traveling around doing different events. But he came specifically because he didn't like the idea that the UK guy, Gary Whalen, a year ago, broke the Galaxian record. So Gary and Perry, or is it Perry and Gary? No, it's Gary and Perry. Okay, so it's Gary and Perry, not Perry and Perry, okay? They're on this poster, and they were going to head-to-head playoff here, but Gary got sick this week, so he's not here. So we're wishing the best for Gary. So it doesn't seem to be anything serious, but he did have to go to the hospital. Pardon?
He got nauseous.
Got nauseous? Well, yeah,
At the competition.
Gary got sick, so he couldn't be here, so we're all wishing the best for him. So Perry is moving on and trying to see if he can break the world record in his solo attempts. Well, this is going on. And Sean Cram is the Zookeeper world record holder, and he's the Donkey Kong world record holder. He's one of our referees, so he is Donkey Kong free, so that's a big deal. So he's also one of our certified referees, so he can watch scores in the course of the week. But of course he's going to be participating, these guys are participating in this classic gaming championship between, whoever shows up. Classic Gaming Championship. That's right, it's called Crowning the Classic Video Game Champions of Europe. And this is open to anybody. You play 5 games that are out there, I guess as many times as you can fit in the next few hours, and then we'll do a ranking based on your high scores. We'll crown a champion at 6 o'clock when we have our award ceremony. So, essentially, classic gaming is becoming a very big deal. So much of a big deal that all these guys want to get together with all you guys who want to do this. And after I show you this, we're going to start talking. They're going to say things, and you can ask questions. But here, you might have seen this in the news. This went worldwide. This turned into a very big media phenomenon. See the poster there? See the logo that says London versus Paris? Okay, hold that up. London versus Paris. Here is the proclamation. That's a whole bunch of us. Anybody can go with us who wants to. We're going to get on the train. We're going to go to Paris on Monday. And we're just going to make them pay attention to it. They're going to, we're going to go to newspapers or magazines, right? And it says, whereas England and France have perpetrated a 650-year-old tradition of rivalry and conflict, which has affected the course of history throughout all corners of the world, which is an understatement. They had, since the 100 Years' War back in the 1330s, England and France have had 7 what we'll call world wars that were fought in all corners of the globe. From what was a part of the American Revolution in the 1770s. You guys remember that, don't you?
Yeah.
And then the Napoleonic Wars was the last one. It turns out that on Monday when we deliver this, it turns out to also be Napoleon's birthday. Absolute coincidence. And I noticed that the last month we were finishing the text for all this kind of stuff and it was very cool. So the whole idea is where is England and France have done all this stuff, and where is it is the responsibility of the youth of each new generation to take action to dispel the influences of stress, war, and disharmony created by earlier generations of mankind. Whereas the youth of England and France have shown themselves to be a dynamic generation who wish to transform their country's past traditions of conflict and rivalry by planting new seeds of friendship that will nourish the growth of brotherhood among these two nations, healing past wounds and reconciling this. So it's placed on a high, noble, level that we're not just going to pick on them. What we're really saying is video games. Yeah, we are. As video games, what we're really doing is saying war is obsolete. We propose that video games can make war obsolete, and we're going to take the peace initiative out of the hands of the government, and we're going to challenge France, and France and England will have friendly competition on video games. So that's the whole, concept and energy of this thing. And down here at the bottom are all the signature places that you guys are going to start signing those who want to be part of the petition. And as we end this panel discussion, we'll have people come up and start signing. So a bunch of us who are part of the organization group are going to sign there. Now look, see, that's my picture. Wouldn't that make me more famous than him?
No. He's mad because he didn't get a bottle of champagne.
That's right. Whenever we fly an airplane, I've never seen this before. Airline stewards just try to pick him up. I've never seen it before.
That's not the funny part. The funny part is he gets jealous.
So anyway, you see we're all going to sign here? Okay, so don't anybody leave, because we will sign this before this is over. Okay, now these guys got to start talking. I'm just going to say one more thing. Classic gaming is getting real big. Classic gaming events like this are not just happening out in the clear blue. It's really a big phenomenon. And the thing that's interesting is about everybody's eventually going to be a classic gamer. Because all those new games that are coming right now, that big herd of players that play the modern games, they forget their games within 3 months and move on to the next one. What happens to all those games? They become part of the historical repertoire of gaming. In other words, eventually they're all classic. Everybody eventually is going to be a classic gamer. So you guys are just pioneers in the forefront of what's going to be a big phenomena that's going to pull in millions and millions of people. So we should be very thankful. And really, I think, Chris, are you here? Where's Chris? Anyway, let's give a big hand of applause. Okay, so I've talked too much. These guys are stars, and they can answer questions about games. We just congratulated you, Chris. Oh, thank you. They can tell you things about games. Who wants to ask a question?
Chris and his wife.
Chris and his wife, Chris and Christine. So these guys have a lot of experience, because these guys have been in the front line of competitive playing. They've been out for 20-some years, and so they can answer questions about all sorts of things. Who would like to start off by answering a question? All right.
I want to ask Doris, is it true that gaming, retro gaming, keeps you looking so young and fresh?
Well, what Doris isn't sharing with you is, when I brought her keyboard for her to regain her record, she had to promise me, she's a busy lady, she had to give up some of her vices. Daily, she plays bridge, poker, craps, Texas Hold'em. She doesn't sit home at all. If she didn't have a TV, it wouldn't make a difference. But she has a cubert right in her den, and every night, 3 in the morning or whenever she can't sleep, she comes out and plays. She's good for about 3 or 4 hours a day. Boy, no argument, huh?
Who thinks that they could be a champion? Who thinks that they're close in any game? Anything? Oh, okay. Well, is Nick? Are you in the room right now, Nick?
I think Nick's fine.
Okay. So Nick, what's Nick's last name now? Huff. That's it. Huff. So Nick just broke the world record today in space hero. So you got a world champion here in the room who just broke a world record that's been held by an American for a long time, and now it's held by someone from the UK. So, and there's a lady here who brought her Vectrex machine, and Brian, one of our referees, is monitoring her scores, and she's breaking records. So you have Vectrex home console scores being made too.
Media, how they acknowledge the records. You say they're a record, but how do we know they're a record?
Oh, because we have this long tradition of knowing what the space career records are already.
So how do I know what they are, though?
Oh, well, you go online to the Twin Galaxies website, which probably a lot of you already know, twingalaxies.com. We have a big database there of thousands of scores. Actually, our score database now dates back to, on pinball, almost the 30s, and on video games, to the getting towards the early 70s. So we're putting a lot of our raw data into the database. So we have a lot of stuff, a lot of games dated back quite a few years.
What gives that website the gravitas or shows that acknowledgement
There's
is?
an online database you can search. You just put in the name of the game and it'll tell you whatever you're looking for.
Let me answer that question.
Okay.
Going back to the 1980s, I forget the actual date, but the governor of Iowa got together with March 17th of 1983, got together with a U.S. congressman, actually President Reagan sent some correspondence, and the presidents of Atari and Namco and Williams and basically all the big video game companies all recognize Twin Galaxies as the repository for high scores, and thus it's always been.
Right, okay, that answers the question. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's cool. About a world record holders, tell me that. It's Steve and Nick. They're usually American or North American. You want to tell us what you think it is about the American character that is showing the class to the world?
Sounds like you have an opinion already.
No. I asked it yesterday.
Well, the answer is the same as yesterday. The truth is I've been to Japan, and the games in the arcades there are easier because they're set on an easier setting. It's more of a family atmosphere, and I mean that's just the truth. It's probably a place that you go to that's supposed to be more fun. In the U.S. and in Canada, the games are set much more difficult. Therefore, when you do get better, because you're pushing yourself to a higher level, you do get a lot better. And we always say that the U.S. players are the best. The truth is that Canadian players are really good too. As a country that's only about a tenth of the population of the U.S., they shouldn't have more than 10% of the sports, but the fact that they do. So they are really good too. But the fact that we're competitive, the fact that, we're even a little tough or nasty about it, is because of the environment of the game. It's not a family, it's not that there's not family fun, but they're not programmed for a family atmosphere. They're programmed for competition. And in Japan, the program's a little looser.
As the arcade industry now pays top players billions of dollars, do you think that's going to happen in the classic game sector?
Well, did you say the arcade industry now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Golden Tee, Gold.
Oh, that kind of thing. Oh, well, that's actually beginning to happen, but I don't know all the details, but I know that the novelty golf kind of thing is now becoming that whole same kind of, what Kevin's talking about is the big networks kind of things. Like you see a lot of touch screens, especially in America, there's touch screen things with different kind of strategy games, but there's also the Golden Tee golf kind of thing. But that kind of a format is now spreading to horse racing games, to different kinds of shooting games, to different kind of driving games. I believe that there's a big one that just started by Global VR. I think it's Need for Speed Underground 2 is being done. Internet is sort of like that too. That will get big prizes. So the arcade industry actually is going to have to go in that direction, as far as I can see, because nothing else is saving them right now. Because the arcade industry seems to only survive in big monolithic locations. Like in America, they're called Dave & Buster's or GameWorks or Gilliam's. Only real big amusement attraction kind of places can afford the cost of your modern games. See, I have a copy of Replay magazine and Playmeter magazine that comes from the U.S. We were looking at it last night. Some of these big games that they're coming out with now, the used prices that are there in the ads are $65,000 and $59,000. That's why there are no mom-and-pop arcades anymore. That's why in America it's only big places that are like major amusement attractions. So therefore the arcade industry has become very small. So the only way I think they're going to win is to go in that direction, Captain, to have those big intranetted things that have big contest prices like those golf things that are so popular in America. And I don't know how popular they are in Europe, but that's really the only avenue I see them making an arcade a successful place, in my opinion.
They're very popular over here.
Oh, they are? Okay. Then everybody knows the format that we're talking about.
Well,
so,
if they're allowed in golf.
All right. Yeah, they play golf. You play golf?
I know all these sort of experts in games, but is there like a holy grail of high scores that interest you, that you all sort of acknowledge everyone?
Okay, what's the holy grail of high score? In classic gaming, what would be the holy grail? What would be the top of the line? Well, I guess there's always been a handful of games that the top player would respect the high score the most. I mean, it's always been like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, things like Centipede, and things like Donkey Kong. Unfortunately, all the games Bill Mitchell.
Well, Bill Mitchell was a fantastic player back in 1983. I mean, he skunked me on Donkey Kong way back when. But Bill called me in 97 or 98, and he said, you know, what will make me world famous is becoming, you know, perfect on Pac-Man. And it did. I mean, all people in this room might have known Billy Mitchell before 1999, I don't know, but everyone, we were in the airport on the way here, people were saying, Billy Mitchell, on the airplane, Billy Mitchell. So, I think Pac-Man, perfect Pac-Man is the holy grail of
it's an easy choice because Pac-Man was awarded the game of the century. And when I'm standing there and I say to somebody say, why did that person say hi to you? And I'll say, did you ever play video games? I don't play video games. Did you ever play a video game? Yeah, what'd you play? Pac-Man. I mean, it's the first answer. So it was an easy choice. It was an easy choice to choose that as the Holy Grail, and it was an easy choice. Well, it wasn't an easy feat, it was an easy choice to decide to go after it.
Question for Doris, I might have been asked already. When did you first get into video games? With respect, were the people of your era playing those games, or were just a mature view?
Even then, I was the oldest old lady in the garden.
I think it's great that you're doing it, because I've only seen a few pictures of some of the guys I've probably seen online and stuff, web pages, and you see on videos and stuff, and there's some old people playing this Pac-Man and seeing, you know, all these films, and it's just, wow, because typically it's all earmarked for young people, or people who are young, who now are reliving their youth through finding arcade machines again through jammer cabs and dedicated cabs. That's good to see. Great.
Yeah, it was, I always say that in 1983 we were a bunch of young punks, and, you know, she was the original lady. And she was very good to us then, and that's why I called her, and that's why I told her I wanted to bring her to Hubert, because maybe subconsciously your conscience turns a little and you wonder what you can do for someone who had done for you. And so when I said to her, I said, here's the deal, I get you a machine and you play. You give up your vices. I said, and you have to get the world record, and you just don't give up until you get it. So it's a good deal.
Great.
this is a question for probably all of you guys, is that you've obviously got your high scores in the games that you like playing. Apart from those games, what other games do you like playing? Whether it be on arcade or whether it be home computer, what other games do you like?
We have a lot of competitions at Fun Spot. I'm just
On what, sorry, what was that?
at Fun Spot.
Oh, Fun Spot.
Arcade that we go to. It's the world's second largest arcade.
Right.
We've got
Okay.
like 160 plastic games.
All right.
It's a good place. When you have competitions, we have somebody that works in a chocolate factory, so that's kind of pride.
Willy Wonka, is it?
And we all compete. We all have
But do you not like, I'm not talking about competing, I'm just talking about just, go home and switch your PlayStation or whatever and play a game. Oh yeah, I like to play that game. No competing, just...
Really, when I get home, I do my home stuff when I go to the arcade.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to do it too much and then not like it. I want somebody over.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't want to get that way. I'd rather enjoy my time there and I get to my own thing. But I'm sure everybody has I personally have some games that I probably could get the world record on, but the thing is, they're not my favorite games and they're frustrating.
All right, okay.
I get tired. I'll put them away for a while and pick them up later when I'm not so frustrated.
Thank you.
I've been involved in the industry quite a bit as both a player, and my motivation was even the industry to make games because I enjoyed them so much. So I've been a producer in the video game industry now for about 20 years, and I do take my work home with me. So I come home and I have my arcade games and set up in one room, and then I have my PlayStation 2 and my Xbox and those type of systems in another room, my office, and so. I find myself always being drawn back to my game room to play the classics, because that's kind of what I was weaned on. But
Games such as, what do you like?
Maclean, Mario Brothers, Carnival, Space Invaders, those type of games. But I do play some of the platform games on the Xbox, and I'll recommend one. Psychonauts, I don't know if any of you play that for Xbox. They're very, very good games. So I enjoy a wide range of games, but my time's limited too, so I'll often go back and just play the classics.
Thank you.
I generally play, like you said, play games that I enjoy playing, like Sean said. When I go to play, if I don't enjoy a game that much and I'm not interested in it, I basically won't play it. Even to this day, as far as home consoles, I think they're great, but they're not my type of thing. My idea when I was a kid, I wanted to go out, get out of the house. I wanted to get out, go somewhere, and do something else as opposed to stay home. So I have a Nintendo, the original one. That's actually the only home console game I have. I don't have a PlayStation 2. I don't have an Xbox. I do have MAME now, so I can play some of the classics that I never played before or hadn't played in a long time, and that Fun Spot doesn't have. I'm fortunate to live an hour away from Fun Spot, so I can go there anytime I want. So, but I basically play games that I enjoy playing. And my problem is I'm somewhat competitive, as you probably tell. So if I like a game, if I really like it, I'll end up going after the record on it. So.
Thank you.
I also find myself playing a lot of classic games when I have some extra time. I'm the kind of guy who will go into classic arcade and try to play every game in the arcade. Not necessarily
Competitively.
Well, to a degree. I don't necessarily focus on the games where I'm a contender on the world record. I just really enjoy playing classic games, so that's, if I've got some extra time, that's usually what I choose to play as well.
Thank you. Doris, do you have any other games apart from, was it Big Doug? Cubit, sorry.
Bridge and poker.
I thought you said you gave those up. Crabs. I thought you said you gave those up. Devices, what are those devices?
I play every day. Sometimes I'll play poker and bridge in one day and play fast that night.
Is that how you make your fortune?
No.
He plays nickel poker.
All right.
Good day, bad day.
And how about you? What's your favourites, apart from the ones that you compete on?
Absolute hardcore point-out games. I normally don't say to the media, but I don't like anything other than point-out games. Recently, a movie crew doing a documentary was in my house and they filmed me. And they asked my 6-year-old son, they said, you know, is your daddy the world's best video game player? And he said, well, he's the best Pac-Man player, but I beat him on all my games. So I guess I don't play him because my 6-year-old kid will beat me.
So I'm another person with no time, I've got a family now, so I've made the mistake that you all made, I'm sure, I've got far too many games, in far too many boxes up in my loft, and I just don't have time to play them. So I kind of flip between the new one, which some of you guys are familiar with, Definitive, 3000 all that kind of thing. Like a bit of online stuff, the Half-Life series, kind of through that sort of thing, but for me it's time.
I would just echo Bill. I'm a old, classic, upright arcade player. Only play games I like, and got good at the ones that I like. And my kids can kill me on Xbox or PS2.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Leah, what you said was, you mentioned resolution duties and basically massive anyway.
Quite an experience. I can't believe we've got so many people that turned up sort of guest-wise this year. It's been absolutely phenomenal, especially considering how new we are and to this kind of thing. We've got some great people here this year. As you know, we've got the guys from Twin Galaxies outside, and while video gaming in the sort of coin-op thing is not as big as it out in the United States, I would certainly say that the gaming industry is just as strong in the UK, if not stronger than what they had in the US. And we've certainly got some much better coders in the UK, or what I call veteran coders, and like that as well. So I'd like to first of all welcome everybody on this panel and thank them very much for taking their time to actually come along and take part in all this. And then if I may, I'd just like each one just sort of say a quick hello to you and just sort of tell you who they are and give a very brief outline of
Short biography.
Yeah, short
Born in
biography.
1966.
And then we'll go take it from there. We'll just let you guys fire away with any questions you've got for any of these guys. Well, within reason. Thank you very much, guys.
I'm David Shaw, the youngest of the Shaw brothers, the only one who's bothered to turn up. I study graphics for screens and animation on all these like cheap budget games on Atlantis,
I'm Ben Daglish. I used to write music for Call of Duty School and with various other machines, which I won't even bother mentioning. And stopped doing it when these newfangled sampling things came in. It just wasn't the same.
Oh yeah, I'm actually playing a nice work with him about 10 years ago. Not a book and that's probably not done those games over the years from IK Class, Top Zone, Jimmy Bond, Star Wars, and Road to the Challenge, and still doing it. And now it's still taking it further.
And I sell them. I'm probably a pretty big retailer of old classic video games and stuff, and I own quite a large collection of Star Wars arcade machines. You know, a lot of links to the cast of Star Wars and a big Star Wars and sci-fi sort of fan. His name is Jonathan Thompson. Also, people may know me as the infamous JT. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I have no idea. People will reserve their own judgment. That's me. Also used to be a children's TV presenter for Sky TV. There you go.
I'm Max Krause. I'm designer at, I was a designer at Bullfrog back in the day, working on everything from Powerman on. I'm also known as the, just Alex Krause.
The infamous.
No, not even slightly. Oh yeah, that other guy who made that date was too hard. That's what I know.
This is also an American Revolt, which you still haven't forgiven.
Yeah.
I'm Glenn Corpus. I was at Bullfrog from day one.
You're the first employee.
Yeah, I was one of the first employees, arguably right away. But I worked on everything until '95, so, and being Bullfrog from '99. Yeah. And I worked on Populous, Carpet, Dungeon Keeper, mostly as a graphics programmer. In the early days it was graphics and design, really high copy design and whatnot.
I'm not as lofty as these two. I worked at Bullfrog for many years, not quite as long as these two, but I was generally a sweeper. My name's Andy Nuttall. I worked on most of the games from 94 up to onwards as various things produced, showed the music on the street and some I worked for Sky Gamester, quick look for some impressive button on the Sky Music Box. The games that you'll see are similar like.
Cool, so if anyone would like to throw any questions into these guys about anything.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you all made of the retro scene and retro community and how it's grown, and whether you even realised it existed. To any
is that all?
Yeah, to all of you. If it's
All together. One, two, three.
Well, when you say retro, do you mean retro gaming community?
Well, retro gaming and computing.
Well, I realised that there was a niche market, I think probably 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Amongst, I'd say, 25 to 35-year-old age group that sort of were around in the era of the 80s and so on. There's been an 80s revival, hasn't there, over the past few years? You know, you've got all this Britpop thing happening, and you know, I think that, I certainly realised that there's an impact on it. And my business is called Retro Arcade Machine. It thrives and survives on 25 and 35-year-olds who want to buy and relive their youth and create the games with us. And I usually, funny enough, find a lot of people in the south and the north. There's a lot of people in the south with games rooms and stuff that want to relive the childhood. You know, that's my response to it.
Yeah, I would say 10 to 12 years ago, someone approached me to buy a property and 10 years before that. And they wanted to put it on some consoles and they were talking about retro gaming then. And I thought, bloody hell, take cash and learn it. But here we are 10 years later, it's bigger than ever. So I agree with your point about people in my age.
Can you speak up, please, Arthur?
We need microphones.
Yeah, we need microphones next year. And I do think that a lot of people are they want to pay cash, so they're buying what they're trying to do. It's truly good, which is good.
I'll tell you something, it's weird though, when I look at people who sold over the years, you've got people from pop stars and so on. You tend to find people who run their own companies that have got a bit of disposable income and so on, that want to stay with the charges, because one thing the retro game market has done, it has taught the price of the machines to be, that they're seen as becoming antiquities of the past, even though they are only, some of them 10, 15 years old. They're like modern things.
10 years old.
Yeah, in the world, the weird thing is, in the world of computers, a 10-year-old computer is worth nothing. You know, but a 10-year-old arcade machine with all the decals and top flashes and all that sort of thing, you know, you could 10 or 20 times.
Weird thing for me, when I got into it, it was about 1985, and in Bullfrog we used to have a games room, and there was a pinball table that was like 2000. And about 1997, the woman was going to stick it in the skip because it cost too much to run. And it was a long story, but essentially we were going to stick it in the skip, and I said, look, it's a work of art. Can I have it? And she said, yeah, sure. So I brought me van in, or it was a mini club, and I stuck it in the back of there, took it home, and then worked out on the internet using for a site called Marvin VM how to fix it up, and then realised that there's about, I don't know, on the internet there's rep game pinball. There's a massive community in England as well of about 140 people
in the UK, and tons in America. There's eBay's got loads of little businesses that brought pinball stuff, and then from there I went on to Arcade Games World, met Archie through that on the UK back, which has got about, I don't know, a couple of 150 members or something like that, and it's like, wow, this is like a little cottage industry almost, and people who respect the things as much as art rather than just,
Do any of you guys look at Vance, the video arcade? If you look at the
back to the list.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you look at the collector count, the UK is the biggest arcade outside of America. The numbers are growing.
There's a thing just about the games as well, I think. It's, I mean, this is always my big bugbear about the difference between the games that were written by the veteran code 20 years ago and the kind of games that are being turned out in inverted commas by the industry now, you know. The whole point was that when you had individuality, when you had kind of, you know, it was some 14-year-old sitting going, this could be completely wacky, and I'll just write it, and anybody that wants it can have it. You know, you then got you weren't being forced into niches. You weren't being forced into, you know, it's got to be a shoot 'em up, or it's got to be, you know, people were coming up with some really quite bizarrely interesting game ideas, and I think it's probable that as you get older, those are the kind of games that, although the graphics may not be as flash, the music may not be as flash, in terms of the sheer gameplay and the thinking about it, and the kind of the way that it stimulates your brain as an adult brain, you know, I think there's different things going on there. You know, you're getting different bits tickled rather than it's just, you know, left, right, left, you know.
Speaking to toys, by the way, this man speaking to toys.
Oh yeah! Bring it out with the Croydon Maclean!
Who agrees that 80s games are far more playable than some of the things that are around now?
The biggest thing with the modern stuff is, as soon as people find out what sort of stuff we do, I mean, I can bet you this, that how many people come up to you, when they find out what you do, they go, I've got a great idea for a game. And then they proceed to tell you a great idea for a story, for a third-person action adventure. And you say, what do you actually do? And they're like, well, you've got to go and save the princess and do... Yeah, but what do you actually do? How do you move, jump, fire, open things? How do you do all that? And no one ever considers any of that stuff nowadays. Whereas that would have been the only thing that they were considering back in the day.
And keyboard control as well. Then next and semicolon, well, come on, I mean, that's the way to play games, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I suppose it is, you know, without them to get into too much of the kind of marketing versus us type thing, we could go on. But they're definitely on more. When you design a game, you really need to design it for yourself. Is that fair to say? Yeah. You need to design a game that you really want to play yourself, and then all right, if other people want to play it, fantastic. And I'm sure that's why I was playing games years ago and designing it, but I'm sure that's where all the ages came from. Just thought, fantastic. Let me write a game. I find it really fun to play. Stick it on in you know, ZX user or whatever magazine you might have been, particular user, and then see if anybody wants to buy it. And all of a sudden they did, and you know that's what the whole thing worked. But it's very much marketing.
It's not just
Yeah.
There's so many things you can't write now because of the fact that somebody will come along and say, well, our survey, our focus group tells us that only 13% of people would buy this game, therefore we're not going to bother because it's actually the amount of money that we have to spend on marketing of the game really wouldn't make it worth it, you know. Whereas actually, when it was you write it yourself in machine code and you stick an advert in Commodore user and somebody buys it. And
it's worse than that. You can't even sell an idea. 10 years ago, you couldn't even sell an idea internally. The company that was Bullfrog and became EA UK, on game mechanics. You just can't get it past the marketing people and the people that have got agreements.
That's why I left Gremlin.
The three of us and the guys there were all on the same team with we were trying to pitch on perspective what it would be like to play and what it would feel like. And we couldn't do it. We had to sort of go off and
is there a film tie-in?
It was called Indestructible, and it could have been a fantastic superhero game. And they kind of, you know, I am going to go to market, but they kind of said, oh no, people don't want to play more than one superhero.
It's a city hero.
Hang on a minute.
I remember getting shot down for strange reasons. Well, actually, okay, straw poll here, right? Who would rather play Superman, or does everyone have their own idea of what their superheroes do? And if you could just pick your list of powers and make him your superhero, would you rather play that, or, you know, a Superman, or Batman, or Spider-Man?
Oh yeah. Big Pants Man!
Who's the license guy? Hands up all those for license guy. Sorry, Dan. I guess your marketing guys have identified a few different types of gamers. Myself, I've got a short attention span. I like a quick fix, a quick blast on something. I might play it half an hour, maybe not even that. I've got into long games like Zelda, for instance, on the 64. I wish I hadn't. Things like that. Well, what do you guys prefer, a quick blast, or do you like doing big, involved games, or?
You're asking I personally like a shoot 'em up, and you know where you're going, and you know all this role play. I mean, I was playing I don't know, this PlayStation game, Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Republic from that. In my head, you know, I want it to do what I want, and I want to fire, and that's it. You know, I want things firing at me, and that's what I'm used to. So for me, these role play games need. I don't want to be having to think about an intellectual pathway to the game. I just want the game to be, you know, simple. That's for me. But
I think there's a time and place for both. Yes. There's sort of your high school chasing, immediate blah 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 blah, I'm done. And then there's the I do actually want to progress this story. But as long as they deliver it in the right size chunk, so you don't have to play for 2 hours before you can enter the game, or you don't have to do all of this particular stuff, otherwise it's going to make you start back at again. As long as those chunks are manageable enough, then it can be any game you want.
One thing with the console games is they never ever put a quick save in. It's really irritating. You've got anything like a page or anything like that, you've got to get to a certain point before you can save it.
Again, I put it to you that as long as that chunk that you have to play is a fine size, then you don't need a quick save. Because if you start going down the quick save route, then you have all sorts of ramifications. For instance, Doom, okay, that was balanced for quick save. You go around the corner, you shoot the guy, if you got him, quick save. You go around the next corner, oh, missed him, hang on, let's reload that one, right, yeah, and it's a gameplay experience, but it's probably not the one they intended for it when they started making it.
But the slower games like Knights of the Old Republic, as long as you say where you are, it's not such a bad experience. It's just where you've got to get somewhere, where you've done like 3 hours worth of work.
Exactly. Like I said, manageable chunks. In the case of Old Republic, probably, I don't know, a 5 or 10 minute chunk of gameplay.
Like a Alone in the Dark.
Yeah.
I've done that.
They relied on quick saves. Exactly. And Doom did as well.
You've got a question?
Alright, so yeah, this is for Bullfrog. Bullfrog. Were there any games or sequels actually planned, and what's the situation there?
Well, I know that they've... Hang on, how much trouble did we get?
I don't know.
They tried to get Syndicate going at least 3 times.
Yeah, they keep on.
That's about the only one. There was talk of a Dungeon Keeper 3, which was really leaving, which was all going to be sort of overground as well. But again, nothing, unless it's Harry Potter, UK Studio doesn't release it.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, that's what we if we'd have stayed at Bullfrog, which became EA UK, that's what we would be doing now. So EA UK, yeah.
Well, we're not anymore.
We're not anymore.
No, but you would have been if you were.
Yeah, Bullfrog does not exist anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore.
So would we be getting any more like theme parks or anything like that?
There was going to be, I worked on a game called Theme Resort, which was going to be a theme game based in a resort, really. And then there was another one called Void Star, which is what was the game that actually came out? Homeworld, yeah. Homeworld came out, which was a few years later. Again, the marketing people said that 3D RTS and space won't work, and then Sierra brought out Homeworld and cleaned up. And Homeworld 2, if I remember right. And Indestructible, which I did have a few problems, and I can see why it was canned in some ways, but it was potentially better. I mean, we just got a super hero game. You know, like a...
Okay, so to clarify, you're now actually, well, if you're working on the EA UK,
yeah,
I was wondering.
Yeah, the only place you'll see the Bullfrog logo, incidentally, is to get a copy of Harry Potter, cast one particular spell, pause the game, and zoom the screen in, and use the Bullfrog logo as a sprite in one of the particle effects. That is the only place.
And on the carpet in...
and on the carpet.
There was an old... Alex was telling me before, I didn't actually know this, but we used to have a big, massive map on the way into Bullfrog with a big logo on it. So, and I think they're just selling everything off, and Michael Lee Shaw bought it because he still works at CGEUK, and he bought it and put it in front of his little area for those coordinates. It's about the only place that you'll see a Bullfrog logo in CGEUK.
I've still got the car park sign.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's Mark Knight over there, who's one of the
The insultus Americanus spell, at which point Harry starts walking, going out, fucky, eh? Fucky, eh?
The last game that came out with the Bullfrog logo on it came from the so much climax anyway. On a theme park.
Was it theme park? Which I would.
Theme park it, wasn't it?
Right, I think that's right.
No, Quake 3 came out, didn't it?
Oh, that's all right. Quake 3.
That was the version, yeah. That was the start of example.
The only version I was did.
I didn't realise that this would be about the game.
Sorry.
Any more questions?
I was just wondering if we can just go down, just your favourite games or programmers from back in the day, if you could just...
Or favourite 64?
Yes, that will. All 64 music.
So yeah, if you want to start.
Yes, that will, Matthew Smith.
Thank you. Ben?
Masters of the Lamps. The Masters of the Lamps? Yeah. Flying through the rings. The genie with the bongs. At the end, just blow out like the colours when you had to do the... Yeah.
Was that partly because you had a good soundtrack as well?
It was alright actually, but also because I didn't do it. No, I didn't do it. No, it's all American guy. But then the last few levels, because first you got the coloured ones with the notes, and then you got the colours without the notes, but then the last ones you got the notes without the colours. And so like people used to get me around so I could finish off the last few levels. Definitely last of the lamps.
An arcade game that had to be probably wrote from on the start to 9. It was 64 or something, not excluding the end stuff, but it was probably the Sentinel. Really good game.
I don't know if the Commodore 64 had it.
You went around.
Arcade wise, it's got to be 1942, and I've just spent the last half hour playing the one in Cabin before I was killing it. I guess that was brilliant. But home computer wise, well, Elite burned up a lot of my time, and I used to bump off school to play Populous. Ironic, really.
In the 8-bit games, and I used to like anything that was so completely the mechanics looked like it was unbelievable and spin the thing. Sort of all, but actually favourite old game, probably a bit newer than that, was the Dungeon Master on the MSC. Very different kind of game. I'm more into a few seconds, you know. OSD and Amiga.
Yeah, Populous. Well, that's the way you need to get it.
Multiplayer first.
Multiplayer first, and then if you make multiplayer fun, then the single player will matter.
It's fantastic. Until about 2 months before the end. And the only way to play it.
If you look at every Bullfrog game,
the game that came on a new road, your opponent sits on the road, basically plays like me. I used to play against him. We used to probably spend all day working around playing for down in the pub. And he just basically tried to beat me by writing to your opponent. There wasn't much to it. You actually know how it works. It's very easy. But especially with multiplayer first, as were a lot of others.
Carpet, Kika, they were all multiplayer first.
More questions?
I'm afraid I'm going to repeat some of all the other guys that said Whizball was probably my favourite. Tampad 84 did use up a lot of time in Genius. We used to play Tampad 84 constantly at like 3 AM while we were waiting for the sun to come up and the deer would start coming out and kill the story research part. And go home and get some breakfast and then come back in. If I remember rightly. I don't know, Eugene Jarvis's stuff, I mean, it's just the most astonishing stuff ever, because Defender or Robotron, I think, are the two games for me that if you actually play as it was intended, using the proper control panels and everything else and the proper machine,
you just completely forget about control, and everything becomes motor memory. You know, it becomes just instinct rather than. I'm not very good at it. I'm shit. But you know, while you're there, you don't think about control. You completely forget about it, even though it's so hideously complicated. So I don't know. They're Defender is one of the most. I've procured it from people who actually from machines. Defender's probably one of the most action. You got a ... Everybody will know it's going to be
the Acorn stuff.
Yeah.
BBC Micro version of Defender. Yeah. That was the closest. So the top boy is working for the Acorn.
I played it for yesterday. It is pretty awesome.
Again, just wondering, for the programmers, what you make of the resurgence in bedroom programming, people, you know, using emulators to create new Spectrum games and new 64 games and so on.
I think more power to them. I think, again, with all the problems that we had in this whole sort of transformation of attitude in marketing, stuff like web distribution, micro teams, you know, 3 or 4 people, everyone's just working from home. I really, really hope people can make a go of it, because, well, frankly, that's what I want to do.
It's where the next resurgence is going to come from, you know.
I do find it's slightly odd that there are people playing with 64 and Spectrum. It's kind of a shame they can't be putting that effort in trying to write something on a PC, or, you know, or there isn't a market for that. The thing is that it's like that it isn't, because I don't know where you sell it. It's so easy to get. It's so easy to get fun out of something running in Flash, you know, on a website. But there's kind of no market for weird little games. And I really regret that. That's what I'd really like to be doing for the market. If I could make a living, you know, just write stuff on my own again. So it would take a similar amount of effort to what it used to take 15 years ago. And that'd be perfect. I don't think there's a market for it. It's a real shame.
There is this thing about a machine where you turn it on, it goes beep beep ready.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of 3/4 of an hour whilst doing those loads. DLL, you know. And turn it on. My 10-year-old son, I've just got a BBC for him. So he's been doing some programming on the PC, but I mean, it's so bad. With the BBC, it's all there. He turns it on, it's there, bangs it in the television. You can abuse the thing as much as you like.
Visual Basic.
It's got that. It's got the BBC Basic, which is kind of one of the best. Yeah, it's an excellent, and with the built-in machine code, which is just getting into now. I mean, this is the thing with the bedroom coders. This is like, you know, 14-year-olds writing ASM. You know, these days, the students are coming out of university with a bloody degree in Word.
Don't stop.
I just have to tell you, I was hiring programmers a few years ago, and I had a guy come to me who had an IT, a master's degree in IT. And I mean, I used to joke about this. He had a degree in Word, Excel, PowerPoint. He had a degree in how to use Microsoft products, you know, and that was it. I was asking him. He didn't know. He had a slight problem remembering whether there were 8 bytes and a bit or 8 bits and a byte. And Boolean algebra, he thought he might have done a lecture on Boolean algebra at some point. He seemed to recall the lecturer doing truth, but it wasn't really important because, you know, you need to know the file menus over there and the home menus over there.
Also, one of the biggest things for me in the circus intimate, I mean, absolutely right what I said, all power to people who've got, who want to make new games for the C64 and Spectrum, because as long as there are people who want to play them, then people should be making them. But one of the reasons why I wanted to get out of, when Theme Park World was the last game I worked on at Bullfrog, actually Black and White was the last game I worked on, but Theme Park World was the last proper game I worked on, and it got to about 80 people or something like that, and I just thought, I don't know, it must be something else, and I don't know what it is. So that's why I moved to Sky, because you know, the what they call hidden, I think stuff they're doing is kind of a little article now on what they call hidden gaming. I think it's quite a nice way of putting it, really. But you know, mobile phones, interactive television, that kind of stuff. Because they are pretty much, you know, they're really ropey bits of kit that are not designed for playing games on. And yet they're perfectly suitable to play games on, as long as the expectation level of the player is such that they're not going to get huge, you know, FMV and.
Well, I mean, you can do some fantastic stuff on it. The single biggest thing that holds back sort of mobile games like that is the interface. They only ever have one input at any one time.
Yeah.
And you can't go up and right at the same time.
But you've got to design a game for them all.
Yeah, but again, you can't go to, if you go to the marketing and say, right, okay, we're going to do a mobile game. I mean, the place where I'm at now has a department dedicated to mobiles. You've always got to make it the lowest cost denominator.
Where are you working now?
Rather not say.
Working for Coogee. But he's right, and you do have to, you know, if you're designing for, you know, cross-platform developments, and it's the same as Skype, because they've got 35 different boxes, and, you know, they've all got to be designed for, because a lot of people have still got those things, and mobile phones in particular are a nightmare, because they all use different, you know, they all use different operating systems, and you have to try and design a kind of cross-platform operating system first. So, you know, great if people want to design new mobile phones and bring them out, and then all the old ones can get trashed, and we start designing stuff for the new ones, and that would be fantastic. But it'll lose something as well, because there's a lot. These guys know much more than I do, but it's a challenge programming for very ropey, you know, old ancient technology, because you really try and squeeze, you know, the stuff to the nth degree out of it, even if it's down to scale. Sorry for mentioning scale. I do apologise. Who I work for now, so I'm used to plugging them. But anyway, the company I work for now is a little controller. You can only press one button on at once, it won't recognise it if you press two at the same time. So you've got to really try and design around that, and it seems that people who are going to be playing, which are generally not gamers, they're generally just people who go, I'm going to press this button. And you've got to try and design the game around that. And it's really like, it's almost like designing for somebody in 1980 again.
I mean, that's where you get a lot of the creativity, is actually when you have to work within the limitations. I mean, it's the same, this is exactly the same with all the synth music, you know. With chip music, you've got three voices,
it becomes
you know, and you've got...
tune, not the sample.
Yeah, exactly. The programmer, completely. The programmer says, right, you've got, you know, a K and a half, feels a bit like your player. I'm not kidding, I've written tunes that the actual notes were 300 bytes for the whole lot. You know, and you're just using, and you're finding interesting little ways of being able to take a sequence and wrap it round and change the sound slightly when you're doing this way and stuff. And exactly, and it becomes about, it is about the music rather than the sound of the music. You kind of take the sound of it as if it's noise given, but you know that everybody's sitting listening to it anyway, so you try and make the melody, you try and make the structure as
the same as coding, I mean, we've had competitions where there are 4 codes to do something, fall out and make it.
Yeah, right. Chess game on a Sinclair 81.
But it really is the challenge of actually squeeze the code to get the code.
And you become a better coder, yeah, definitely.
More questions?
How did you guys get into the industry? Is it, you know, a quick soundbite? Was it by accident or choice or whatever?
My brother was in a bedroom program at Southline. And yeah, the computer, I mean, we all used it. Never made it to the inspired never got it.
Yeah, so I was at school with Crowder. He came along to me one day and said, hey, how's the Death March go? I let him have the notes for the Death March, and then he came along with his Jean-Michel Jarre record and said, here, how's this go? And I wrote him out the notes for Jean-Michel Jarre, and then we heard a piece that Robert done and went, oh, fucking hell, you do that! Oh, right, give me a box!
I was just trying to think, actually, I was always playing Atari games, you know, as in black and white and shades. But around about 1980, Defender and Spider came out, and Sean said me a thousand script and threw it, and I was told, well, when I did it, and it became Doctor. So, you get me a thousand script.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
for me, I used to go down to the local arcade, and you have all those machines now, it'd be like twice the room outside of retro gaming. You have them all, they're like, wow, look at all these. And I used to play those, and I'm a game player, I was addicted to these games. And I just, when the market became, there was a way in the market where machines became a lot easier to collect, they were a lot cheaper to buy, and so on, people throw them away in arcades. And I thought, I want to buy something. And so I sort of turned the whole thing around and bought a sort of dream collection of machines. It's like having now it's like having a business where you supply big kids' toys to people, but you're also supplying your own toys. You know, the and enjoying it. That was that hobby, really. The hobby business, but it does do quite well. That's me.
I'm the next Lego then.
What, 2 years earlier, really. I was working for, I've been computer operating on mainframes and stuff like that, and I've been working on a very boring job on software for selected machines for a year. I was made redundant, hanging around at the game shop in Guildford, bumped into a guy who worked for a company that was about to start doing games before, and then became Bullfrog. They were doing a relational database on Amiga, and they were just very apparent they needed to game machines for the change the game. And I went in there as a programmer, had all the programs they needed to, and I could use deep hand yet, so I was a harder than artist, so I was basically that now.
My son found out school, doing the YTS scheme, they sent me a work placement. Got a bit bored with that. I met Sean Cooper, who's not program Bullfrog, on the bus. He said, come in, we're always looking for people. Turned up, chatted to Peter. He said, when can you start? I said, 2 weeks. He said, that sounds good. 2 weeks later, I turned up at the door. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I start today. He goes, no, I never offered you a job. So I spent about 6 months on the dole, until eventually he phoned up and said, actually, you're quite enthusiastic. You still want the job. Oh, yeah. Well, my schoolmate, who got the job instead of me,
We took it off to America to the show, and he called somewhere.
Yeah.
So as soon as we got back, he fucked it back to Chicago.
Should have said that at the start of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so there you go. I can hardly recommend that method.
You're going to get to the game industry. Be very patient.
The model? No, that was Sean. He reached the last 16, last 8. It was a close show. I'm glad they made him wear some kind of shoe on his head, though.
If you saw him, you'd see why he's a model.
Yeah, he's got like David Coulthard's jaw, hasn't he? And the flick hair. He's still at the CGEUK. He's now... No, is it? Oh, there you go. He's just left the CGEUK.
He's probably a good user. I fell into a job as a journalist on Amiga Format magazine, and I worked there for 5 years, and then there was editor of the one Amiga, and then while I was on that I thought, why am I doing this? And rang Peter up and said, Peter rang me and I said, I'm quite good, I've just interviewed him, and I said, by the way, if you need anybody to do anything, I don't really know what, but you know, I quite like the games. And he said, all right, what do you think of you? And that was on it. So another, can't really recommend that as a way in.
When can you start? You said 2 weeks.
He did say, he said 4 weeks, and sure enough, I showed up. But when I showed up, he said, right, what can you do then? And I said, well, I don't know. So he put me into this, I think it was called associate producer at the time, because it was a kind of, the associate producer was a kind of job title for somebody who was really got to kind of find their own way in the company. And sure enough, so that's why I ended up doing bits of music and all sorts of those things. So going out to different teams saying, do you need anything done? for about 6 years?
Yeah, looking to.
You're me, yeah?
I was saying there is a great alternative way to get into Bullfrog. There was a competition in the Power Maker.
Oh, yes.
No, it's right
Mike diskette one.
MC diskette one. We gave him the heading one because it couldn't be a real name.
It was actually a real name,
Mike diskette who turned up and wrote a lot of stuff like Cynical Boys, a lot of Full Money, but now. But when he turned up to claim his job, Peter just hit on the team.
Interestingly enough, the person who came second in that competition was Dennis. He also got the job. Dennis had this when I was making Republic and I'm a millionaire on paper.
Quite an interesting competition.
Now that Nintendo has said that they're going to be charging for the sales of retro titles over the internet, do you gentlemen feel that you may be missing out on some financial profits in your past story?
I think that opens up a massive intellectual property argument. I don't know how they break that number.
Or
all their games from Nintendo games.
Yeah, they're Nintendo.
Just their stuff, yeah. Just their own.
Nintendo US has said,
Yeah.
be careful, the internet has always for you.
Have you heard it's true?
Revolution will be
First time.
supplying retro products at price over the internet.
I think they're going to have to be very careful. That's all I'm saying.
Nintendo.
Yeah, right.
If it's Nintendo in-house stuff, then yeah, they can do what they want. If it's like third party or affiliate stuff, I'm talking about other stuff, not necessarily Nintendo.
The way it works is they provide the emulator, and the person who creates the board is the one who downloads the somewhere the code to make the game, whatever it is, to put it on the emulator. So they're sort of implicating millions of people.
So Nintendo are putting the responsibility on the person.
Yeah, they're putting it on they all be politicians.
But there's quite a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like saying you can't have, Napster gets closed down for music, and another one opens up, and another one opens up, and which it is.
That's what Maine's gone through this process. The only difference here is that both.
Maine's gone, but has it really?
It hasn't gone. They just have to legalise themselves to avoid legal.
I don't know. Opens up a whole load of can of worms, I think.
Really simply on.
Somebody's got
tapping the ring sugar.
Yeah, I'm a mad gamer and computer person. I've been doing coding various websites and visual basics for about 5 years. And my question is, because all computer systems are different, and many games and various things have bugs, is it easier to find the bugs and fix them on consoles? Because bear in mind, everyone's going to have a different system. Like graphical, mainly texture, all those kind of things, like the minor bugs that you get anyway with them.
I think it'd be damn so easy to find bugs from old 8-bit stuff.
You've got a lot less memory to hunt through.
Yeah. Well, what I'm really trying to say is that everyone's system is going to be different.
Yeah.
So, you get someone with a low-end system, I don't know, like Pentium 3 or whatever, or low graphics card, and they'll experience problems that other people don't.
What you're talking about there is what we tend to refer to as the config interface, which is the single nastiest piece in any PC development cycle, is where you've got to try out your piece of code, which, and this is a program of stalwart, it works fine on my machine. And that is basically the programmer washing his hands and saying, and quite honestly, you can spend months in config with this. Yeah, exactly. It can quite literally be anything.
Yeah, that's it. Like artists and sort of sales,
That's what patches on PC, patches, they are. But there are, interestingly though, there were, I can't remember how many revisions of the original PlayStation there were, but there were quite a lot, and some of them did make some subtle changes. I'm not a pro say that, but there was a lot of changes made as it went on, but they were very subtle, and they did make some differences to programs that have already been written and already been sold. Can't remember exactly what it was, but certainly, PCs are a nightmare. Mobile phones and set-top boxes are a nightmare as well, because there's so many of them and all different. But for consoles, it's surely a dream, I think, comparatively. But they bring their own problems. They bring their whole research problems, like distribution and
Yeah, this I think what we call current various preservation projects. The preservation projects. Dumping roles.
Great. I think it's really great. I love looking around the amount of stuff that's going on now. Because it's funny. It's almost like I suppose for us as it were, it's history. It's only 10 years ago, 15 years ago or something, but it is it's the same as 500 years ago history in that if it wasn't documented, we'd lose it. Already the kind of the people that designed and built a lot of these machines are now they're getting old and dying off, and you're losing it. It's the same thing, you guys. And we're not long for it. Come on. But yeah, it is history. It's going to be computer gaming is going to be in 100 years' time looked at as an important part of the kind of late 20th century, early 21st century kind of culture, you know, and yeah, there needs to be kind of that documenting and recording people that still got skills, or people that have still got, you know how to. It's like the BBC Doomsday Project, you know, the Doomsday Project that they did in whenever it was, in 86 or something, 1,000 years after, you know, and that was kind of the thing that was done and put on those special BBC laser discs. Yeah. Not just paper discs, on special BBC laser discs, only the BBC players. And there's now, I don't believe there are any working ones in the country at all.
Of course there are.
Or is it, there's one up in York, isn't it, that they're now busy in York University transferring all of it from laser discs to kind of some other media. But, you know,
very close. They're very much in the space.
I think, that's some very, very BBC micro.
I thought they were supposed to, when the aliens came, they could read the technology to do that.
I don't think the aliens
could
read BBC later. No.
The thing is, think about it, if somebody doesn't document it, whether it be old arcade machines or, you know, preserving things, who's going to do it? You know,
when you're making them, and again, back in the day, we were cutting edge, and so it was never history. You never thought, well, this is going to die out, and just like, oh, this is great fun. And you never bothered commenting on it. Right, next one, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the other. And if someone's not actually remembering it, it's gone, isn't it? It's gone. You know, coming back to video games like this.
Yeah, I went to America last May, or I think 3 times, and I came across an arcade collection, and I gave them this garage, please, has anyone ever heard of it? Maclean had, it's got Bullfrog all over the side, which is actually a very good fun game. I've never heard of it, it's not on anything on the internet anywhere, it's not in name, nothing. So, first I had to scan the site off, because I had to see the archive sideline. The other thing was download the bombs. Remember, we had to get the bomb out of the board, and it was soldered in. This board is a one-off board, and we got the chip out, all the legs fell off. We had this little bit of DIY surgery going on where we soldered moved it to wire. We got the code off, and the guy who's done it has now got it on now. If it wasn't for that one little incident, that game would have gone forever, and it was actually a really good game. It's bizarre.
What add to that is, I'm sure definitely believe this is, I'd say anybody who's got the facilities to do it should, I think, keep the cabinet, certainly the boards, and when you talk about old consoles, we need to keep the electricity one, the spectrum, and all this kind of stuff alive, rather than just when they break, fix them and just let it stick it, skip or something like that. Because it's a simple thing. If they kept those old BBC laser discs machines and the kind of BBC macros and whatever else we needed to go along with, then we wouldn't have problems. So we need to keep all this old hardware, scratching. It stuns me a little bit when you see, well, in fact it makes me cry to this, when you see sometimes the cabinets in particular just, stuck in a skip, or when you see some hideous thing. I think Andy's arcade, which is Andy Wilkins, got a site with a few pictures of cabinets on fire and stuff like that, and it's a low point in human history, I think, when you get works of art just set alight. So, anybody who's Meg is correct. Meg does have its place, but I think for me it never replaced the actual stuff you can hold in your hand.
The BMI has a repository, so you can actually donate books to the BMI.
Oh, right. Okay. I mean, just coming on this point, the amount of times that I've been from what they call raid arcades, you go to different arcades to find machines. I must admit, a lot of that has died out now, where you can go to a seaside resort and find those old machines, probably because of me. And I've collected a lot, but the thing is, the stories that those arcades, if you were ever involved with collecting or anything like that, the stories that these big arcade owners have these huge areas they expand, the discs are thrown over there, 6 lines of Space Invaders and all of that. The amount of stories I've heard of them saying, we scrapped that cabinet only last week, and you think, and this is the thing, if there's nobody there to collect them and preserve them, then I think that it would become it would just die, things would move on, obsolescence would happen, and that'd be it. Sorry, you can try to ask.
Do you think that to do this kind of holding going back, essentially just going becoming more high resolution, pixel size and whatever? Is it holding going back and being more interactive?
No.
No. The thing that, again, the thing that's holding us back is not the technology. The technology is going to do lots of cool, wonderful things. The thing that's holding us back is the financial side of stuff. The fact that it's a big business, rather than, because when we were all doing it, we were doing it for fun. Yes, it paid the bills, but we were doing it because we wanted to do it. We
Too
wanted to make
many games today that put well, obviously the kind of jab generation want too many play slow sports like, in 1920s.
Well, I think they think they want to play that because that's the one that's out, that's the new thing, and that's what they're marketing at.
But the same way, obviously the lack of creativity. That's what they spend,
I put it to you though, that the lack of creativity is not down to the people, filmmakers going, I've run out of ideas. I bet they've got tons of ideas, but it's the money men who are actually going to pay for that. You're saying, actually, I'm not going to give you money to do that because I know that this one over here will sell this many. Yours might sell this many, or it might sell that many. We don't know.
What do you mean it hasn't got a happy ending?
Exactly.
We can't sell a film that hasn't got a happy ending.
The technology.
The new generation consoles, obviously, the high resolution output, yet they're still displayed over here on 480i display, which is making a mockery of the fact that they're all high resolution. Tell it to the public.
I'll tell you another thing. I as well, so recently had a very large team of guys, and the games have cost £2 to £3 million to do. You need funding to get that sort of game. Now, at the very end of the process, you have to go through a huge amount of submissions to CGEUK, which Sony and Microsoft deliver it all. And Sony will give you a real hard time if they know you're also submitting to Microsoft and blah blah blah. However, they have the ultimate right of Sony to go, no, that's not good enough, forget it. You can't publish it.
You spend that money.
After you spend £3 million with someone else's money. And all the investors for those projects are all backing off. If you actually
in other words, gaming will always stay very safe.
yeah, but 20 years ago, we'd sit in a room for 3 months and play with an idea. It was ready when it was ready. And 3 months is when nobody thought of one guy, 3 months.
One program with one artist, industry, one unit.
Now you've got 50 people, 100 people, £3 million at risk, and you've got marketing men, money men.
Boils down to time to change.
Yeah, some gaming still games like Vital, games like Res, there's more.
Well, Res was exceptional, and that's a hell of a game. Especially for
I mean, you get some that slip through your Reses and your Lycos and your Category Damacies, and more power to them. The more of them we see, the happier I am. And I'm amazed that Ikaruga made it through.
Yeah,
that's on the strength of Radiant Silvergun being such a problem. I mean, like, I saw someone playing it earlier on, so there was Saturn and the TV and the Radiant Silvergun and all these other games, and the cartridge for Radiant Silvergun is probably worth more now than anything else that they've put together, and what was I saying?
Question. I was going to say that I agree with Alex, but you can't blame the technology. I mean, you probably could if you were doing it for PC and you weren't aiming for the highest of the height. Do a really cool game with a lot of nice technology and a few people. If you were able to do something basic and new, it would just be high res and easy graphics.
You maybe need more entrepreneurs to something to buy shelves.
No, you should do.
That would be useful, yes. You know, I'll give you my number again.
We've all got cars.
Do you want to...
Don't you think we're not effectively using the platforms we have though? Because I mean, you have things like the Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, Xbox Live Arcade. These are things where you can make simple games. Why aren't people using them?
Because you can't sell them. You can't sell them.
You can't get through.
Make them.
You don't get the risk.
Publishers won't back it, it's too simple, and the platform holders don't like it, it's too simple, and it hasn't got endorsement.
I mean, what seems to be the case with doing research is that kids expect the expectation level of a game that a child is going to buy now is so much bigger for one reason or another. A good reason for that. The expectation level is that it's got FMV sequence, it's got high resolution graphics, and it's an all-round kind of beautiful entertainment experience as well as just being a good game. I mean, well, it isn't a good game either. It's just all mouth in the trousers, so to speak. But it's the expectation level that's the problem, and so the marketing people are feeding from that. Not so much the marketing people, that people are all around them, but the heads of studio are concentrating on that particular bit of market research, which is it's safe, it's what sells, and if you don't do that, then you're taking a risk, and that's the problem. So it's like, you can understand it, because if they're saying, well, 10 million, we've got 10 million quid, we're going to spend it on a game, are we going to spend it on something we're going to make 100 million quid back, or are we going to put it on this, or we might actually not make our money back?
What are the NFL 1, NFL 2,
yeah, it's not because we don't want to. It really honestly isn't because we don't want to, because man,
and we really do. But we just can't. Think about the way the world unfortunately works now. Look at the music industry, for example. Yeah, you could have somebody for every one piece of music, a recorded piece of music that makes #1 on the chart. There's probably a billion other youngsters that have got really good creative ideas. Someone turns around and says, "You know what? The public not going to like that." So I think the public feed off that, but they also feed off the public because they were the ones that created the sort of, the kind of people expect what people come to expect now. They created that, haven't they?
The thing worse than music industry, I think, might be a bit offensive to some people, but I think the problem is with hardcore gamers. This music is released niche stuff, and there's a market for punk, heavy metal, and a million different varieties of styles. But in games, if you're a hardcore gamer, you don't eke out, maybe you guys are exceptions, but don't eke out weird stuff. You play retro stuff. You incorporate PSP. You play Counter-Strike for 4 years solid, spending the game money buying new graphics stuff. There are no niches. I hate to say it, but I blame the game buying public. Because they do, no, that's true though. Hardcore games, what do you do? You don't play different games.
It's because the marketeers have made those things for them to buy. Those little add-ons or those little...
If you describe yourself as a hardcore gamer, you've been the guy who's got, PSP already, with all the games, or you've been the guy that, I'm a hardcore gamer, I play direct account.
I don't know. I think there's loads of arguments about. My favourite genre has been point and click stuff. I love all the LucasArts stuff. Sensible, man. And actually, my kids love it as well. Again, it's quite fun. The 10-year-old and the 6-year-old, and they both well into the like that sensible. The humour of it, the gameplay of it. Even though now, looking at it, the graphics are sophisticated and talking. Think about it. I was speaking to Charles Cecil in Revolution a few weeks ago, and I was saying to him about we've got this idea for a point and click, and he's saying nobody's making them. You can't sell them for money. I mean, what's that? That was a genre that seemed to be really successful. Lots of people were buying LucasArts. LucasArts were obviously making money out of it because they were selling them out. And then, did he die, or did somebody, just at some point, some marketing droid come in and say, oh, that's hard. No, you have to do too much thinking.
I would like to find out that.
It's lowest common denominator.
Whether Ken X2 is on my list. One of the things I think they did was try and overcomplicate it, because they made Full Throttle, didn't they? And I can't remember what was the one. Full Throttle was okay, but it was just incredibly short. So as soon as they tell you run out of money or they run out of ideas, but it was a good game, But then they brought the Grim Fandango, which was like we were playing about the control system, trying to make this new fangle thing. It's quite a good game. And Mother 4 as well. It's just really ruined it. So the whole kind of control stuff. And I've got a feeling that maybe that might have been the problem.
Can all you people who say you love point and click say you bought another code for DS? There's a point and click game, it's on a current console, but people aren't buying it. So no one's going to support something
no one's actually heard of it. I've seen it in the shops a number of times and gone, I still don't know what that is.
So why didn't you buy it then?
Because you don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. I'm not going to risk.
That's what the internet for. You go home, you buy it, that's actually quite cool.
That's a fair point.
Then you buy it. But because people don't do that, those niche games don't sell. And the niche games don't sell, so why should they risk money on trying it again?
Yeah.
Because the demographic on the actual colour playing the left needs to play back on the actual mobile phone.
Yeah, but if it's a niche game on a smaller system like the DS, you don't need to sell 10 million copies. You can sell 50,000 copies and be happy, or 100,000 copies.
No, there's actually limits. You have to make a minimum number of copies to get a Nintendo deal.
Nintendo deal.
But I'm sure it's less than for a PS2 game or something like that.
Well, Nintendo were always historically more, weren't they?
Certainly cartridges or something.
But and you have to still have the cash at the end, right? I think you have to pay Nintendo to actually make the cartridges for you, and they sell them back to you. I think they've always been the hardest
bit off as well. They make $700,000 straight off. It's your complete risk. It's massive.
Okay, so we've got time for just one more, I think, and then we're going to have to...
We're just getting into it.
Let's have a history of the day.
There are questions in the bar. There are companies